welcome back to Shift Happens. If you are back here for week 3, I appreciate you. I am grateful for you. Today's episode is about doing the work. Now, I find this whole term about doing the work and healing, it's a bit cringe. I'm guilty of using it myself, but really, it got me thinking about what is the work, and it got me thinking about how many people actually understand when people are like, oh, you've got to do the work, you've got to do the work. What is it? As someone that's been doing the work, I wanted to be able to share my perspective on it. For me, doing the work is really about self-reflection. It is about really tapping in to triggers, to traumas, to behaviors, to coping mechanisms, and really trying to understand why you yourself react in certain ways, the reasons behind my feelings, the reasons behind my emotions, looking at childhood trauma, looking at trauma growing up and seeing how that impacts. It's really about trying to nurture who I am and grow to be somebody that I am proud of being. The other thing for me about doing the work is that it allows myself to really understand what is required to really love myself. And I know that sounds really cringe, and I'm going to do a podcast on self-love because so many of us struggle with it. And I'm not talking about, oh, self-care Sundays. No, I'm talking deeper. I'm talking about really digging deep into who we are as people and really allowing ourselves to accept our past, our mistakes, our hang-ups. Finding the areas that you want to focus on in regards to doing the work is so key. Maybe areas that you feel unfulfilled. For me, if I'm being really honest, my area of focus at the moment is definitely relationships and men. I have a pattern of behavior when it comes to men and attracting a certain type of man. I would love to sit here and say that my ex-husband was the first and last narcissistic man I met, but I'd be lying to you if I said that was the case. I have since been in situationships, relationships since him, and yeah, it's not been an easy ride. So for me, I know doing the work is all about relationships and how I show up in those relationships and my part that I have to play in it. Right now, I'm focusing on really nurturing this idea of self-love and accepting myself and feeling enough within myself, because I think within my relationships, I've always been made to feel like I wasn't enough. And now I'm at the point where I am trying to cultivate that self-love in a way that is so pure and so unconditional that when men come around and they're offering me, below average and they're breadcrumbing me, I can basically just tell them to fuck off. That's where I am trying to kind of work on it. The next kind of phase of doing the work is that there is challenges that will always occur. Resistance is a feeling that comes up often and naturally for me and many others. And it's because of this fear of the unknown. Like, it can provoke anxiety and it can make the thought of doing something very difficult. Now, when it comes to building resilience in regards to resistance, we really need to practice self-compassion. Realize that you are not going to have everything figured out. It's a lifelong journey. It's about just kind of enjoying the journey, because if you're not enjoying the journey of figuring out who you are and what you stand for and what you love, you're not going to want to commit to it. It's like anything. If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to want to do it. It's also about not being too hard on yourself. I am my number one hater. I always criticize myself. I'm negative. And I really have, through years of therapy, tried so much to kind of shift the narrative and make it more of a positive one between myself and myself. Let me be your reminder, and let me tell you that not all of your thoughts are valid. We have so many thoughts as human beings, and not all of them are valid. Not all of them deserve space, and not all of them are important. I want you to know that doing the work is never easy, but it's an amazing thing because not many people are willing to do the work. And the fact that you're there already speaks volumes. I really need to emphasize is that healing's so not linear, and doing the work is the same. It's not linear. There is not one clear path to doing the work and then you're ultimately fixed and everything's fantastic. If only it was that simple. Because honestly, if it was that simple, I would have fucking medals by now. There are times I feel really fucking shit. I also know that those feelings pass. I know that working on myself is a greater reward than settling for less. And I think you have to want more for yourself than the life that you're currently living, whether it be the patterns of behavior, the habits, whatever it is, you need to want more. I want to tell you a book that I really love, and this was a real shifter for me. Like when I read this book, a lot changed in my life, and it's the book called The Mountain Is You by Brianna Wiest. I read this book and it really pushed me to do things I never thought I could. And I read it about 3 years ago now, and I still revert back to it. It's a fantastic book. It's really easy to read, and it's a lot about the resistance that we create for ourselves and why we're our own worst enemy. I really recommend that. The other book that I wanted to share with you that I think is a really good book if you are maybe on the fence about getting therapy, or you can't afford it, or you're on a waiting list for it, because I know it's not accessible to everybody. And it's a book written by a therapist, and it's called Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? I can't actually remember who the author is, but I know that she is a therapist, and she also has a TikTok page where she does some really great content. I think for someone that isn't in therapy, it's a really great place to start. I think some of the teachings are so valuable. I really would love to do a episode on some of the books that really helped me on my journey of doing the work. Please let me know somewhere. I think Instagram DMs is probably the best place. If you are interested in an episode where I kind of do a little book club, book review type thing on some of the books that I think are really great for helping you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, growth, transformation. I went from being a person that never read in their adult life to literally reading about 25 self-help books within a year. My therapist actually told me to stop reading because she was like, I think you're looking at yourself far too closely. I think you're trying to find things that are wrong with you, and maybe you need to sit in this space of acceptance. That's when I realized it's all good having this knowledge. I don't need to always put myself under a microscope. That's another really important thing, is to be kind to yourself. Like, it's not about hating on who you are or always trying to change things. It's about accepting. It's about moving to a place of acceptance. I definitely went through a phase where I was obsessed with the work, and I had to kind of like reel it back in and just like stop for a second and be like, actually, I'm okay with who I am. That is a place that you really want to be. This kind of leads me on to the next thing that I wanted to say, and that's about tools and techniques for doing the work. Now, as I said, not everybody has access to having a therapist, and maybe a therapist isn't the right fit for some people. For me, it's really important to have someone who's there for me to help me hear my thoughts, because I'm such an overthinker. So it allows me to process it with somebody. I have pretty much without fail for the last at least 5 years journaled every single day, and I do 3 pages of freehand writing, and then I do a page of gratitude and a page of affirmations. Now, I know it may seem excessive. The idea of 3-page freehand came from the book The Artist's Way, and I actually tried to complete this book so many times. This year I tried to commit to it, and I've struggled many times. But one thing I took from it all those years ago when I first tried to start the program was the 3 pages, and that has become a non-negotiable in my life. It's so much part of my routine that I'm on autopilot. As soon as my eyes open, I come downstairs, I make a coffee, I go back upstairs with my coffee, and I open my journal, and I just let whatever thoughts are in my mind out onto the pages of paper in front of me. I've had so many breakthroughs. I have had so many pivotal moments that have come through the morning pages that I have written to myself. Just let whatever is on my mind just come out, and I don't even think about it. I let my hand lead, and it takes some practice, but honestly, I find journaling the best form of self-help. It's just incredible. It's incredible the things that come to light. The other thing is mindfulness and meditation. I have started doing a meditation workshop once a week. Allows me to tune into my body, connect to my breath. And as someone that, like I said, has ADHD and my mind is super active, it's really so special to have those moments where I am being guided and listening to my breath as opposed to what's going on in my head. You don't realize how healing it is. It really brings you back to the present moment. And realistically, all we have is the present moment. So I love meditation and mindfulness. If you see me on stories, you'll know that I love my nieces to death. I have loads of like cousins with kids. But I'm talking about two of them in particular, my Dina and my Azra, and together with the Daz girls. One is 8 and one is 4, and they are my life. I feel like I'm their pageant mum. My cousin has encouraged such a great relationship with me and them. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because it is relevant. Being with the kids, being with my nieces allows me to be so mindful, so in the moment, seeing the world from children's eyes and just, you know, feeling that pure connection to the world. They're in that play, they're in that present moment, and they are filled with so much joy, excitement, and love for life that for me, it's really helped me in my healing journey. The other reason I really love being with them is because it's incredible inner child healing work. You know, I'm painting with them, I'm doing kid things with them, I'm watching kid movies. It's worked wonders on me healing that inner child for myself. Another thing I think is really important to consider when it comes to doing the work is getting uncomfortable with being vulnerable. Now, for a lot of people, we have this guard up, we have this wall up, we try to like paint the picture of this hard exterior. And realistically, there is so much beauty in vulnerability. And there are so many people that talk about it in such incredible ways. Of course, top of my mind is Brené Brown. She has done so many TED Talks and books on vulnerability. She's done a whole study on it. So if you want further kind of reading or work on it, you need to check her out if you haven't already. Being vulnerable really allows us to accept ourselves. And, you know, for me, I think I wouldn't be here giving this to you and still online creating content, sharing my mental health journey, sharing my physical health journey, if it wasn't for being able to be vulnerable. When I left my abusive marriage, I was in a state of shame. And I remember coming back to the UK and I just deleted everything. I deleted all my socials. I deleted every single YouTube video, which there were hundreds of. And now, obviously, I regret it because I don't have them anywhere. I deleted my Instagram. I deleted so many things from that period of time. It was like I literally deleted the 2 years that I was with him. Like, all of that was gone. And then I kind of hid. I hid in shame for 6 months. You know, I was offline. I was completely dreading the thought of being online or sharing my story. And I remember saying to my therapist, I will never go back online. I will never go back on social media. After a certain amount of time had passed, I was ready to talk about it because I had accepted it and I was ready to be vulnerable in the hopes that it would help somebody. I remember the post, the day that I wrote the post, you know the post, if you followed me for a while, you'll know the post, the one where I'm standing on the swing, the one where I'm talking about my abusive marriage and what the last 6 months had been, and I opened up. And when I say to you, I posted that post, I switched off my phone and went into the cinema with a friend of mine. And when I came out, I couldn't even switch my phone back on. The anxiety was so high. I got her to do it through her phone. I was like, you check, you tell me. And she was like, oh my God, Zara, there's like thousands of likes. There's like hundreds of comments. And I was like, what the fuck? And then I switched on my Instagram and my DMs were wild. There was hundreds of messages. I'm not kidding you. Hundreds of messages from women saying they'd been through similar, women saying thank you, people just like acknowledging my vulnerability. And honestly, it was the most incredible, overwhelming, empowering feeling I have ever felt in my life. My vulnerability allowed me to show a side of me that I had not. And the reason I was so ashamed is because I'd put on this happy front on social media and it was so far from the truth. That was a real moment of liberation for me. I want you to know that vulnerability is a superpower and you shouldn't be afraid to share those parts of yourself. There is so much beauty in it. And that's kind of what I want to say about vulnerability. Doing the work isn't something that just happens and you're automatically fixed and you're automatically love yourself enough, because something else in life can throw you off guard. And it's just about being prepared and knowing how to take care of yourself in those moments. It can be so rewarding when you begin to see that you are attracting the things that you truly deserve because you have taken the time to really tap into what it is to be you. You know how to overcome any obstacles. You know how to ground yourself. You know how to not accept less. You know what you deserve, and You won't settle for anything but that. I'm recording this episode not only for you, but for myself, because there are times in my journey that I forget these things. As today's episode comes to an end, I just want to say that I hope you have found some value in what I've said today. I feel like so much of our lives, we are operating on the things we were taught as children and the things that we are taught from society, that really we don't tap into what we feel and what feels right intuitively. Doing the work just helps you connect to that inner voice that is really just yearning to be heard. If you are listening to this and you are maybe contemplating getting therapy or want to better yourself for whatever reason, I hope this has inspired you to take aligned action towards becoming the best version of yourself. I do not come at you from being the best version of myself. I am a work in progress. I will always be a work in progress, as will you, because healing is not linear and progress is what we strive for, not perfection. I hope today's episode has resonated with some of you. I am sending you so much love. I can't tell you if there's going to be a video next week. I can't tell you what I'm talking about next week because honestly, I just go with whatever feels right. I had this idea that I was going to pre-record loads of content, loads of podcasts, but I feel like the episodes are kind of like my audio diary and reflect what may be going on for me. I just let it flow and watch where the energy goes. This week, I hope that you love yourself a little bit harder and maybe start journaling. I would really love it actually if this week you could try and list at least 3 things you're grateful for each day. That would be fantastic. Gratitude just really helps us hold on to the beauty in our lives. Sending you lots of love and I will speak to you soon. Bye guys.